at this time, I am going to go ahead and introduce our speakers for tonight, Brandy Baston and Chris Rapp. Brandy Baston is one of my coworkers. She works at the Healthy 365 Connection Center with me, and she has served as the coordinator of the Hancock County Tobacco-Free Coalition since its beginning in May of 2002. And she is the Tobacco Initiative Coordinator at Hancock Regional Hospital. She holds a certificate as a Certified Tobacco Treatment Specialist accreditation from the Mayo Clinic. In Hancock County, she administers youth tobacco prevention programs, sponsors the Voice Youth Tobacco-Free Advocacy Movement, coordinates adult and youth tobacco cessation programs. She assists workplaces and communities to help them adopt smoke-free workplace policies, including one of the only comprehensive smoke-free workplace laws in Indiana is in Hancock County. Her coalition is very strong with over 45 members and community partners. If you are interested in joining the coalition, just let us know and we will get you connected. She has received several local and statewide awards for her work in tobacco control over the past 18 years. Brandy holds a Bachelor of Science degree in communication from the University of Evansville and a Master of Arts degree in adult and community education from Ball State University. She lives in New Palestine with her husband and 2 children. Sergeant Christine Rapp is Hancock County's, she works with the Hancock County Sheriff Department. She started in January of 1989. 10 years later, she was assigned to teach the DARE program, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with in the school system. She became a certified SRO, which is a school resource officer, in year 2000, and was then assigned the community relations officer role in 2004. Chris became a mentor for DARE Indiana in 2003, which allowed her to train other police officers to become DARE instructors. She has held several different roles with DARE America and currently serves as the DARE Indiana State Coordinator. Chris works with many agencies and businesses within Hancock County and serves on the board of directors for both NASA, which is Neighborhoods Against Substance Abuse, and the Boys and Girls Club of Hancock County. So I'm going to turn it over to Brandy, and you guys will definitely be blown away by her presentation. I always say that I learn a lot from her every time I listen, and it's been several years, so that says a lot. Thank you for being here, Brandy and Christine.
Thank you.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us tonight for a community conversation about e-cigarettes and vaping. And what we are going to focus on tonight is mainly the youth vaping epidemic. And we say that because it is an epidemic among our young people. I've been doing this work for 18 years, and obviously Sergeant Rapp has been involved as a police officer and a DARE officer longer than I've been in my role. And we've both said in the last several years that we've seen vaping take off and kind of grab a hold of our kids the way we've never seen anything in history when it comes to a drug. And there's lots of reasons behind that, some of what we're going to share with you this evening, and just some basics behind what are the products, why are they becoming so popular among youth, what are the effects and dangers of these products with youth, and what resources are available to help them in their process of hopefully, if they are addicted and they are using, to help them, you know, get away from these products. Kind of starting with some more of the most basic things. This is what we see on TV all the time, or on the internet, or here on the radio. There are reports of vaping-related deaths, lung illnesses, teenagers giving their testimony after they've been in the hospital on life support, proposals at the federal level and the state level and the local level on regulating these very dangerous products. And while there's some videos that I could show you with testimonies from young people or awareness clips that would blow your mind, we didn't want to cause maybe any technology issues by showing videos that might freeze up our system. But all you have to do is Google, teenager vaping illness, something like that, and you can see tons of different stories. But these are the articles that we see all of the time. Much more prevalent, of course, before COVID hit, right? Like everything else, COVID kind of took the main news stream, but these situations are still happening every day. So what are e-cigarettes? Well, they're basically a battery-powered cigarette. There's a device that heats a liquid to produce an aerosol. So when people talk about vape or secondhand vape, actually, technically, it's an aerosol, right? So the aerosol is what the users inhale and then exhale back out into, the air. They usually contain nicotine, some sort of flavoring, and many other additives. So e-cigarettes can look like many different things like these, but they're all classified as electronic nicotine delivery systems, or nicknamed ENDS products. So the first ones,
Brandy, you won't hear the kids call this ends.
Right.
That's something
right.
that they know, but that's more of a technical term, maybe is the way
Yes.
of saying that.
Yes. So your industry experts, healthcare, you'll see a lot of people, referring to these as ends, and the kids won't say that. They all fall under kind of what kind of product they're using is what they'll tell you. Mm-hmm. But the very first product is the one down at the bottom, the e-cigarette. And that was that's where it got the term from, e-cigarette. And this was actually made or patented first by a pharmacist in China. And he was trying to look for a way to help folks quit smoking because the smoking rate in China is astronomical, especially among males. We're talking upwards of 80% in the country of China in, the first part of this century. So this pharmacist was looking for a way to try to help people quit smoking, thought this was a safer alternative. Things catch on. Tobacco industry folks get a hold of it, and now we have all kinds of different products. The vapor pens, hookahs, e-pipes, e-cigars, you'll see all of these different things. But here's something I want to raise your awareness about when it comes to types of cigarettes and give you a little history. So the product that you see right now on the left is the Juul. And the Juul is the product we'll talk about a little bit more here in a few minutes, which really kind of skyrocketed this entire industry and the use among young people. And finally, when the FDA started to step in last year and provide some sort of regulation because of the illicit marketing practices of Juul, the high use among youth, the marketing of the flavors, just everything ended up, in Congress and a lawsuit and the FDA regulation. And Congress decided to regulate these products somewhat. So the thing you need to remember about a product like Juul, this here, is that these are refillable cartridges that pop into the end. So the federal government decided, well, we're going to ban refillable cartridges in like the gas stations and the grocery stores and things like that, because that's where kids would most likely get them in the retail environment. Now, mind you, they banned refillable cartridges, okay? So after that happened, then came the puff bar. And what do you think might be different about the puff bar? Well, what's different about the puff bar? It's made and looks just like a Juul, except it's a one-time use only. It's disposable device. And it has tons of different flavors like pink lemonade and everything else. So understand the difference behind this became the Juul can no longer sell its flavors because it was refillable, and you can't sell refillable liquids in the grocery stores or the gas stations. But it didn't say anything about the single use. So now we have a puff bar that can be bought and thrown away after one use, whether they make it last a day, whether they make it last 3 days. And so they can sell this, but they can't sell this. Okay, just as much nicotine. Now, if you go to a vape shop or a smoke-only shop, they have different regulations, but kind of the mentality behind it was, where are kids most likely getting these products, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. Here's a little bit of history. All of these companies at the bottom that are selling the e-cigarettes, in case you didn't realize it, they are tobacco industry. companies. They are the ones that primarily launched the first products being sold and marketed in the United States. So on the left, the Mark 10 Altria, formerly known as Philip Morris, okay, the maker of Marlboro, most popular cigarette in the world. Reynolds, the maker of Camel, and Lorillard had a variety of different products. These are all different products that they came out with. So the tobacco industry, vaping industry is very much linked together. Now, things like this, parents, teachers, community members, this is a real life example of a pencil pouch found from a student in a school somewhere in the United States. And I want you to look very carefully. If you were walking by your child and they had their pencil pouch open, or you were a teacher in the classroom and you were walking by, would you even think that there could be drug delivery devices hiding in this pouch? But I bet you can probably spot which ones are. So which one do you think is the drug delivery device? Can you tell? Very similar patterns. So if you said this one right here, you're right. See, this is the pin. Look how the pin looks. There's the tip. Now look like this. You might think it was a pin, but actually it's sleeked down and right there's the mouthpiece. So that's the drug delivery device hiding in the child's pencil pouch at school. And now you see what teachers are dealing with on an everyday basis across the United States or even the world. Over here, these are devices that are made to kind of fancy up, personalize some of the adjustable vaping devices. And so they sell these things with superhero themes, and you name it, they sell it with a theme. Video game box controllers, but here's Superman, and you know, other superheroes. And these are things that people just use to decorate their devices with. Guess what? Up here, there's also drug delivery devices. Can you guess which ones, and that means there's more than one, which two devices are actually vaping devices, and which one is the actual highlighter? So if we look at this and you guess, this one right here in the middle, okay, may look a little bit more obvious, right? Okay, that is definitely a vaping device. You can see the exposure right there. But actually this one right here, okay, this is the other one. See where the bottom is hollowed out? The kid takes the top here, the tip of it off, takes a hit off it, puts the lid back off it. This is kind of making sure it's not going to explode. It's kind of open there at the bottom. This right here is the only actually legit highlighter. So again, kind of scary. This over here, another example. What do these look like? So they actually look like lipstick, right? So if you see this in a child's backpack, someone's purse, you see this tube, oh, it's their tube of lipstick, right? You take the top off and this is what comes out of it. Again, another drug delivery device. And believe it or not, that's a vaping device. So a programmable sippy cup, whatever you want to call it, coffee mug, thermal mug. This is also a drug delivery device. And right here is where you can actually adjust the power and the amps and the delivery of the device. But if this is slid over the top of it, you wouldn't know that's there, right? That's the kind of the koozie, the holder that's supposed to, you know, keep it warm, keep it cold. No, actually, on this device, it's made to cover that up. So this is the tube right there that they use to use the product. So if your mind isn't blown by now, or you're not, hopefully you're not running in your kid's room right this second and saying, let me go through, you know, what is in here? Is this a vape? I watched this program today. So we're just raising awareness. I don't even have a picture here of the sweatshirt that has the drawstrings on it, right? The drawstrings on it. And one of them is a tube, and the tubing goes through the hood. and it's connected to the inside of it, and the drawstring itself is a mouthpiece to vape from.
And we see
So,
kids chewing on hoodies all the time.
right. And the kids chewing on hoodies aren't necessarily a nervous tick. It's they're working on something. So Chris, I'll kind of let you take over here.
All right, here is a picture of a jewel. And the jewel really is what has absolutely changed vaping. You can see by looking at it, it's very small, very slim, looks just like a USB port. And it's ridiculous is what it is. On the end there where it says jewel pod, that's the pod that slides on it. The bottom part though, you put right into a computer to charge. And when I tell you we are getting several of these a week at our high school, that's not an exaggeration. And the kids will have them plugged right into their Chromebooks or their iPads, sitting in the classroom, charging them up so that in between classes they can take a hit off of it. And for a long time, we just didn't know. And as soon as we found out and we started educating our teachers, we are, like I said, we're getting several a week. And that's not in any one school system. We're doing this in all of our high schools. All right. Now, and this, what Brandy has pulled up here tells you exactly how it works. Look at that second bullet point though. It said the pod or the cartridge provides 200 puffs. Okay, that's the equivalent to about 20 cigarettes or a pack of cigarettes. And I've had kids, and I'm sure Brandy, you have too, that I've talked to about this, and they're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean it's the same as 20 cigarettes? And yeah, that's exactly what it is. We have kids that are going through 2 and 3 of these a day. I mean, think about being 16, 17 years old and addicted to 3 packs of cigarettes a day. And this is exactly what we're seeing. Shows you right here how many milligrams of nicotine you have. It's the same as in a pack of cigarettes. And the crazy thing is, especially early on, when we would catch kids with this and we would talk to them about it, they didn't believe that they had nicotine in it. I mean, they were adamant, no, this is just for fun. And so often I would say, okay, if it's just for fun, let's see how long you can go without it. And that's when the reality that it did have nicotine and that it was addictive. And it says right on the package that it does. And kids still want to believe that, no, it doesn't, and it's not harmful. You see the price down there on a 4-pack of Juuls, approximately $16. Cheaper than 4 packs of cigarettes by far at this point in time. They're just getting really expensive. And this right here is what I believe to be the number one reason why kids become so attracted to this. They come flavored. And these are just a few of the flavors that they offer. And trust me, the kids are not going with the classic tobacco or the classic menthol. Brandy, is mango still the number one flavor?
Mm-hmm. When they can get a hold of it, yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Mango, the fruit medley, the creme brulee. Mango, if you think about it, if you ask someone to name their 5 favorite fruits, mango doesn't even appear on the list. And right. Now, because of the Juul pods, you can buy mango Pepsi. Mm-hmm. You can buy mango ice cream. I still have no desire to try it. No. But it's amazing how that happened. And this right here really is where it started. And now, I don't know if you have that slide somewhere, Brandy, but I mean, you can get Girl Scout cookie flavors, Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Puffs, you name it. And that's really attractive to these kids. And that's what's getting them hooked, no doubt about it.
And what you'll notice now in the gas station, as I mentioned earlier, yes, they're still selling Juul, and they're still selling Juul pods, but they're selling these flavors: menthol, Virginia tobacco, and classic tobacco. These are all considered special flavors, but classic menthol is not considered a flavor, right? They've classified it as, like a menthol cigarette, so that's legit. But the cool mint, however, is a flavor. So you can still buy these in the store, those 3 flavors, but these are still available in vape shops, on the internet. And like we're being honest, the majority of kids that we talked to as this started, they weren't going into the gas stations and buying them illegally. They were getting them from where the number one sources where most kids get things they shouldn't be having is from friends or adults who buy them for them and give them to them.
Brandy, I've also had a lot of kids tell me that anymore everything's done online.
Yes.
Because there's really no, all you have to do is check a box. Yes, I promise I'm 21. There's no really other way for them to check on that. And so if you, all of a sudden you're noticing a lot of Amazon coming to your house and it's not you, you might want to check into it.
Right, absolutely. When we look at the 2018 Indiana Youth Tobacco Survey, so we do youth tobacco surveys every 2 years across the state of Indiana, and schools are randomly selected across the state to participate, and the data is put together, only identified statewide, not by county, not by school, but they gather the data collectively. And in 2018, and mind you, this was really the first year after the real craze hit, it showed that 1 in 5 high school students, 20%, reported using any tobacco, and just less than 8% reported it. But we have to look at these bottom numbers. Let's look at the increase, and the next slide helps that better. From 2012 to 2018, e-cigarette use among minors, at that time under 18, increased by almost 400%. I have never seen that in my entire life with any other drug issue. But cigarette use continued to decrease from 2012 to 2018, went from 13.7 to 5.2. So the work that we're doing in communities through Tobacco Prevention Cessation, DARE, the schools, Neighborhoods Against Substance Abuse, all of us working together, right? We have made huge strides among young people. And then vaping hit. And we were all figuring out this is a new monster that we're trying to wrap our head around and trying to get the kids away from this. Middle school students, you can see cigarette use decreased from 3.7 to 1.9, but look, e-cigarette use 360%, 1.2 to 5.5% in 2018. This is the year for another youth tobacco survey, and I'll be interested to see what the data shows this year. As you imagine, the e-cigarettes are the most commonly used tobacco product among youth. Juul was the number 1, e-cigarettes and Juul, followed by cigarettes, cigars, smokeless. This is another alarming statistic. Of students who currently use e-cigarettes, about 22% also use regular cigarettes. We call that dual use. So imagine these youth who are using, for example, a Juul pod a day or another sort of pod device a day, 1 pack, and they're also smoking cigarettes, and how much nicotine they're putting into their bodies and what that's doing for a young person. And when kids are asked about the factors that contribute to it, one of the number one things, or the number one thing, was the availability of flavors. Mint, fruit, chocolate was the reason most given. And I will tell you, the first call that I got from a school administrator about 4 years ago about this topic, and he called me and he says, "Brandy, we need your help. I've caught 2 students in the bathroom with these vaping products, and they're trying to convince me that it's all natural. It's just flavored water. And they're telling me it's Skittle juice. Have you ever heard of Skittle juice?" And I'm like, no, and I still use that to this day. Skittle juice is my number 1 favorite reference because of this story he told me all those years ago. And, whoever these kids got this product from, that's what they were sold on. This is just Skittle flavored water, Skittle juice. There's no nicotine. It's not harmful for me. There's nothing wrong with it. And thus began our trek in trying to help young people across Hancock County and knowing what a problem it was. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. here you see we're talking about what's causing the increase. Well, number one, it's the flavors. Number one, definitely. The other thing that's really become intriguing for our middle schoolers is that there are so many cool devices. Brandy showed you some a while ago that had the superheroes on them. But now the big thing is for the Juul, you can buy a skin to put over it. So it's like a wrap. And so that way you can customize your own. And kids can even design their own and have them made, and then they can put them on there. So this has turned into the new cool accessory, kind of like masks are all of a sudden. You know, everyone wants to have their unique one. Another increase that we have seen, and we're really just right now, since we're back into school, seeing this happen, but COVID, believe it or not, brought about boredom for kids. You know, all of a sudden from March to August, kids were locked down. They're no longer in school. They're fairly quarantined at home, not much socialization going on. And as all of us here know, when we get bored, we do some pretty stupid stuff sometimes. Even as adults, we find ourselves doing just silly things. Well, with kids, we know that they happen to be even more apt to do risky behaviors. And that's what we're seeing, because now, guess what? Here we are, we're back at school, and we're seeing a huge increase now in kids at school having problems with focusing, staying attentive, wanting to be there, right? And guess what? They're still getting caught. First day of school, we caught several kids throughout the county with their Juuls. So it's easy access to them, no doubt. Like I said, internet is really now the way that most kids tell me that they're purchasing, because it's very easy for them to do. They don't even have to have it delivered to the house. They can go to an Amazon Dropbox and they can go pick that up, and mom and dad don't even know about it. So it's very concerning, but it's going to keep going up, I'm afraid. So that's what we have going with that. And of course, social media is a way of life for kids these days. It truly is. And it's all over. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. Oh my gosh. Our middle school and high schoolers are living for Snapchat, TikTok. That's always in the news right now, obviously, because they're trying to get that banned and all that. And you know, it's like with kids with social media, I feel like they are so attention deprived that they'll get on there and do just about anything. And Brandy, you had something happened at one of our schools right after a presentation, didn't you? Something that went on social media? You know what I'm talking about? You remember?
When we made a presentation at one of the schools, there were just a bunch of kids that, at first, when we started, kind of went on and kind of disputed what we were sharing, and kind of making fun or mocking, you know, the information that we shared about the dangers of the products. And actually, one of the things we talk about with social media is it's always the worst idea for you to get online and take a picture of yourself doing something illegal, right? And posting it on social media. And we were trying to share with the kids, you know, you could be held accountable, you know, for something like that. You know, parents find out, teachers, coaches find out, you know, these ramifications. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, young people sometimes, you know, make decisions to post pictures of themselves doing things illegal, and there could be repercussions for that. So, but we continue to talk about that for sure.
Yeah. Did you want to talk a little bit about marketing, Brandy? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we do as a coalition is we go in and we analyze what does the point of sale look like in Hancock County retail stores, because this is one of the main areas folks have access to these products. And it's funny, sometimes I'll talk to parents or I'll talk to, adults, and they'll say, I haven't been in a gas station in years. I pay at the pump. I don't go in. And I challenge people to go in sometime and look, what is staring you in the face? Because the tobacco and the vaping industry claim they're not targeting young people, right, with their products. They're not targeting people. They're just trying to sell the legal product. Well, just because a product is behind the counter, right, doesn't mean you're not being marketed to. And in the state of Indiana, there's a law that these cannot be displayed in self-serve stations. But if it's sitting right there on the counter and you can see all the flavors, how much it is, what it looks like, and you go up to grab your Reese's eggs, I can't wait for that season. I think the pumpkins are out right now, but you get your gum or you get your chocolate, and right there, it's all staring you in the face. And these are the refillable liquid tubes. Over here, comic books, things that, people might be picking up or enjoying. And I'll give you a little hint. Next time you go into a gas station and you go to check out, and some of you might already guess, in the marketing world, when you look at tobacco retail, when you go check out, if you're in the very center part of the store and you go to the checkout, the products that are in the very middle in your line of eyesight, that's the company that has paid the most money to have the products there. And if you can guess or imagine what brand of cigarettes, for example, is the brand that's staring you right in the face when you go in the store. And the number one brand of cigarettes, still ongoing for decades, is Marlboro, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to the vaping products, what has been smack dab in the middle for a very long time, especially, a couple of years ago when it started, was the Juul. And that is no coincidence. So I challenge you, next time you go into the store, look and see what's staring you right in the face, because that's who paid the most money to have their product there. But this over here is one thing we're talking about with the marketing tactics. This was one of the first ads that I saw for vaping in the stores. And this was on the wall of a gas station, and it was premium e-liquid, and it's called the Breakfast of Vapors. So literally, this marketing scheme was, you like your favorite cereal? Now you can vape it for breakfast. So you can imagine the names of these flavors. It was everything from Cocoa Puffs, Fruity Pebbles, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Fruit Loops, and all of those things. And some of these companies were getting sued because they tried to put the brand names smack dab on the labels. So they got sued by Kellogg's and General Mills. And you know what? Did that stop them from selling the flavors? Nope. It just became like Fruit Drops. And, I like Fruity Flakes. And Crunch. They took the toast out of it. And as Chris referred to earlier, Girl Scout cookie flavors. So in another part of my world, I'm a Girl Scout leader. And so it really incensed me when I heard about these companies selling, and the marketing tactic was, wish you could have your favorite Girl Scout cookie all year long. Now you can. And they had Thin Mint, they had Samoa, and they had Tagalong. So your favorite chocolates, right? With the mint, the peanut butter, or the caramel. So they got sued by Girl Scouts of America, and they won. And so they literally just changed it to chocolate caramel, chocolate mint, and chocolate peanut butter. So again, the tactics that are being used to appeal to the general public, there's ways around it. But one thing we need to talk about at the end of the day is that the e-cigarette aerosol that someone's breathing in and other people are breathing in is not harmless. Most e-cigarettes do contain addictive nicotine, which is in cigars, cigarettes, other tobacco products. And nicotine exposure during adolescence, this is so important for folks to remember, can harm the developing brain. Okay, the brain develops until we're about age 25. Believe it or not, now the new saying is we're not really fully a grown up till we're 25 years old, and we could dispute some of us may never fully act grown up, right? But when we introduce a drug into the brain before the age of 25, it can have a profound impact on mental, physical, and emotional health and development. And also, getting addicted to nicotine in adolescence can also increase the risk for future addiction to other substances. Now, that's not universal, but they are more likely. So health risks of nicotine, let's just bring it real here. It's highly addictive. It harms the developing brain. E-liquids can cause accidental poisoning, especially among children. And when these products came out, the poison control issued warnings. There were kids all over, young kids seeing a bottle of this stuff that says Fruity Pebbles or Skittle Juice, and they're picking it up and just drinking it, and it's full of nicotine. Teenagers thinking it's fun to just drop it, and dropper bottles drop it in their mouths. One drop of pure liquid nicotine can be fatal to a small child or even a teenager, a small teenager. And so that's part of the danger of this, not knowing what's in there. So use of products containing nicotine in any form among youth, including e-cigarettes, is unsafe, and vaping any substance is unsafe, because at the end of the day, our brains are only, or I'm sorry, our lungs are only meant to take in oxygen, right? That's it. If we take in water into our lungs, okay, we could drown. And so that's the reason why we don't dive into a pool with our mouth wide open and take a big gulp, right? The lungs are not meant to absorb water. And time after time after time, doing this in these liquids can cause some severe problems. Even looking on the Urban Dictionary, this is a story from a kid in 2017. This was a teenager. And this became a term because of the Juul called getting nick sick. And it's specifically vaping so much you get high off the vapors. You get sick to your stomach. They're calling it getting a trip, having a bad trip, throwing up. And it says it may make you want to quit, but you'll probably do it again tomorrow. It's hashtag Juul season. So imagine being in a school and young people presenting themselves vomiting and with headaches, and it's flu season. And now we've got COVID going on, right? And not being able to make heads or tails of this. And kids were literally going to the nurse because they were nick sick. Okay, people thought they had the flu. They ate something bad. But at the end of the day, nicotine use has a serious effect on a young person's health and well-being. Some examples here: reduced stamina and energy, premature aging of the skin, and tooth loss. That's one of the most relevant things for teenagers when I say that, especially for the girls. They look at me like, uh-oh, you know. More acne that lasts longer, agoraphobia, fear of going outside. I could show you many videos of kids sharing their stories, how they got so addicted and so consumed, they just wanted to hole up in their room with the lights off, watch YouTube videos, binge watch TV, Netflix, and just curl up with their Juul or their vape all day long. They didn't go outside because their fear was, when can I do it, right? If I'm hiding in my room, I don't have to worry about anybody seeing me. Panic attacks, anxiety, and depression. Nicotine is not a cure for these things. Nicotine is often the catalyst that causes these things to begin in young people. Shortness of breath and asthma, more likely get sick. Decreased athletic performance. Young athletic males in great shape have lung collapse on the athletic field because they can't keep up with all that running and exercise, and their lungs are overworked from vaping. It's a bad solution. Increased need for other medications, problems sleeping, and negative financial impact. And that's one thing I keep saying to young people: where do you find the money? So here's just a little map of the human body. I share this with adults and young people alike. And I do this because I'm a tobacco treatment specialist, studied this significantly over the last 18 years. And one of the things that we learned at the Mayo Clinic, in kind of a breakdown of the body and the parts of the body, is when you look at the side effects of nicotine, there's not one thing on this list that is positive, that's profitable, or something that you should want to happen to your body. But this is the reality of the side effects of nicotine. And for a young person, it's extremely concerning. Lungs, bronchospasm is coughing, gastrointestinal, heartburn, indigestion, joint pain, endocrine system, more likely to develop insulin resistance or diabetes, high blood pressure, irregular heartbeat, constricted arteries, headaches, you can't sleep, you're irritable, you're dizzy, your blood's more likely to clot. None of these things are good for you. And so sometimes with a young person, this isn't as relative, but sometimes you have young people coming up to you and saying they've already experienced some of these things and they didn't realize it was from that. And then this is the condition bronchiolitis obliterans. This is a condition called popcorn lung. And with what Chris and I do, sometimes when we talk about this, we've literally had people say to us, like, this is fake news.
Yep.
Popcorn lung was just created and manufactured by healthcare and public health to scare people off from vaping. No, it wasn't. This is a very real condition. And what vaping does is it blows up the bronchioli, okay, in the lungs like popcorn here, so they can't breathe. And this is, the tube entrance into the lungs to breathe. And I try to get young people and adults alike to imagine the capacity to breathe for the rest of your life is like the opening of a straw, and see the significant difference between that and that. And once these air sacs get filled up with the stale, stagnant air, chemicals, liquids, you name it, and this blows up, sometimes that's when a collapsed lung happens, because the lung is filled to its capacity and it can't force things out anymore. It's labored breathing, and that's why sometimes people have collapsed lungs. So this is a very real condition that we see sometimes with folks who vape, including young people. This here is another reality. Sometimes these can malfunction. So there have been several stories of these devices exploding when people are using them, malfunctioning. And so this is just a real life example of a man who shared his story from the emergency room. And this is a reality for some folks as well. To go through another list, I won't spend all day on this, but the reality is we're not talking about harmless water vapor. We're talking a lot of harmful chemicals, things like formaldehyde that's used to preserve dead things, including human beings. Preservative, it causes cancer. If you're alive, it very much matters if it causes cancer. Propylene glycol, similar to antifreeze, not meant to be taken into your lungs. Diacetyl or diacetyl, some people say it different. That's the chemical linked to the popcorn lung. Just ultrafine particles, chemicals that are deep in the lungs, heavy metals like nickel, tin, and lead that are known to be cancerous or cause poison. We're still learning about all of the long-term effects, but we still feel that we know so much already that we can't say that these are safe or a viable option, especially for young people. What we're trying to empower the young people to believe is that it doesn't have to be a choice between smoking or vaping. And that's what I hear from young people sometimes. Well, if I had to do one or the other, at least I'm vaping. So now my question to challenges them, why do you have to feel like you must do either one? Why can't your choice be, I won't do either one? I'm going to be smoke-free, I'm going to be vape-free. And sometimes you can see the wheels turning in their minds and you wonder why they haven't thought that before. Chris, go ahead.
All right. Here's the biggest problem we're seeing now in law enforcement, and that is that vapes are not used just for nicotine products. Vapes allow drugs to be used in public. That's the bottom line. Anything that can be put into a liquid or a concentrated form can be used in a vape. And the thing is, if someone's using a vape and you're standing there, this big puff of smoke or vape comes out, but it dissipates very quickly, and it's very hard to really smell it. So the only way that we can test that right now is by taking it from the youth or the adult, if we're wanting to test it, and take it back and physically have to do a test on it to see if it's actually marijuana. There's a real quick test that we can do that might give us an indication. If you take a cartridge and like down there in the bottom, and you turn that upside down, if it looks like oil, oil will just kind of slowly go down. That's probably a good indication that there's cannabis or marijuana in that. If it turns upside down and it flows pretty quickly, looks more like water, it's probably nicotine. Now that's just a general quick test that we might do to see about that. I was going to give you a quick statistic here. Let me see here. In the last 2 years, vaping of marijuana has doubled for 12th graders from 7.5% up to 14%. So what started off for a lot of kids as vaping, nicotine, now they're changing and vaping marijuana. So this is a huge concern, obviously, for all of us, because this delivery system is so much more dangerous for both the brain and the lungs. And we're seeing it, it's going to be out of control. I'm sure of that before too long. Ready, go to your next slide. All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about this, and then I'll jump in real quick and we'll finish that up?
Sure.
Okay.
So July 1st of 2020, Indiana passed what they call a Tobacco 21 law. So one was passed at the federal level, but the one passed in Indiana was stricter, and a lot of states are passing this. So part of a national movement to increase tobacco sale age to 21, and that's in order to reduce access to tobacco and nicotine products. It's a strategy to reduce the significant health effects of youth and young adult tobacco initiation. And part of the reality of this is, whether people realize it or not, we had a lot of 18-year-old drug dealers. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but that's primarily where our young people were getting it from, including deals made in the school environment, in lockers, combinations being shared. You know, you name it. Amazon Pay, as she talked about, PayPal in the parking lot, left under something, you name it. A lot of the kids were getting access to it because of 18-year-olds they went to school with, or 18-year-old friends who could buy it for them. And we know with Tobacco 21 laws that we've seen across the nation that it does reduce youth initiation, and it has been successful, and we hope to prove and see that it is successful in the state of Indiana as well.
When you look at the Indiana T21 legislation here, I think probably one of the most important things to look at is it's now a Class C misdemeanor for underage possession, use, or purchase. It used to be an infraction. As a misdemeanor, that's a Class C misdemeanor is up to 60 days in jail and comes with a $500 fine. Down at the bottom, it talks about the retail penalties, and that it's a Class B misdemeanor for 6 or more retail citations in a year. That would be up to 180 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. I don't think if establishment got very many of those fines, they're going to continue to want to do that. So we're hoping that it will be a deterrent, but obviously we're not going to see any results, I would say, for probably about 2 years. Then we'll start to see some, hopefully. Yep.
And the important thing is it includes all products. So cigarettes, non-combustibles like the e-liquids, the e-cigarettes, and other combustible tobacco products, your cigars, cigarillos, your chew, you name it. One other thing important just to note, shops cannot be located within 1,000 feet of public schools. It used to be 200 feet. And you think in Hancock County, maybe that's not here. There's a couple. Mm-hmm. But if you go into the inner city, the more urban areas, the more densely populated areas, the food deserts, lower income, you better believe it. These shops are everywhere within, equidistant of our schools. And so this was another important part of this legislation. When we look at other laws and policies, there is a Hancock County smoke-free workplace law, just as a reminder. No smoking and vaping in all indoor public places, and now outdoor places of recreation, parks, playgrounds, fairgrounds. It's a violation of school drug policy, and it's a violation of student athlete drug policy. And to let you know, just in case you didn't know, if a student is caught with any sort of drug, if, illicit illegal drugs are one thing, but even the nicotine or something like that, cigarettes, vapes, according to IHSA policy, it can be a 365-day suspension from playing athletics. And schools can offer an option for a kid to go seek help, get a help resource, do some community service, and get part of their season back. But technically, IHSA says they could lose 365 days if they choose to do nothing as a result. So what's the bottom line with all of this? Remembering e-cigarettes are not harmless. The aerosol is harmful for the user and people around them. The nicotine in e-cigarettes and other products cause addiction, harm brain development, It's unsafe. They're not well regulated. Okay, there's no FDA regulation right now per se. It's something desperately needed. They're marketed in ways that target teens. We talked about flavors. We talked about design. We talked about marketing tactics. It can increase their risk of using other tobacco products. Remember, close to 25% are dual users using more than one thing. The e-cigarettes are not proven to help quit, and use by minors is against the law, and you can face serious school and sport disciplinary actions as a result. And remembering about the Juul, kind of the same thing, always contain nicotine, higher concentration than most other e-cigarettes. These are not harmless. They contain lots of harmful chemicals as well. And in the past, Juul tried to develop their own prevention curriculum. Let us come into the schools. Let us educate your kids. And by the way, we'll give you $20, $30, $40, $50,000 if you let us come into the school and talk to your kids. It was bizarre. Obviously, that's not happening anymore, but in the first year or two it was offered. You better believe that happened. Resources to help people. If you have a young person in your life where you just want to share this information, they can a text to quit program confidentially, no adults involved in knowing what they're texting other than the person who's trying to help them. They can text Ditch Juul to 88709, or actually they can just text Indiana to 88709, and kids can get help, and parents, grandparents, other adults, if you've got someone in your life you're trying to help or you want to learn more about it, you can text quit yourself to that number and you can get more information. Many of you have probably heard about the Indiana Tobacco Quit line. It's advertised pretty heavily on TV, on the radio, in our community, social media. 1-800-QUIT now is free for anyone trying to quit any form of tobacco or vaping product. But for young people, they can also get help. 5 calls, free. Don't have to have parent permission. They're protected when it comes to seeking help for something like this. Mm-hmm. Someone who's trained to work with youth in tobacco cessation counseling. A lot of our schools are using this as an alternative or as a part of the disciplinary process. If the kids get help, which we have advocated for, it's one thing to discipline, but if we're not trying to help the kids and getting them the resources, you're going to see them go back and do it again. And it's important to get our help to our youth. And we're privileged that our schools and our law enforcement are all collaborating together to work on this to help reach our youth in the community. Local resources, the Hancock County Tobacco Free Coalition. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Lots of information of services we provide. We share stories, we share resources. We shall share lots of helpful information, and if you're interested and passionate about this issue, we'd love for you to be a part of our coalition. And then Vape Free Indiana website is free with lots of different resources, curriculum, ideas, free brochures, free resources, anything and everything you might need. You could spend all day on that website learning more about this issue and resources available to help. So that's mainly the end of our presentation this evening. That is my direct contact information. My full-time job here in Hancock County is tobacco prevention, vaping, or tobacco prevention and cessation. That is my full-time job. It's unique, and I've been doing it for 18 years, and it's my honor to do so. And Sergeant Rapp actually has been doing this work. She was on the coalition before I was, and the coalition that formed and decided we need to hire somebody to do this work. And so it's an honor to still work with her in this community together on this issue, as well as with many others.